Alright, welcome back to videos. So today guys, I'm going to be reviewing a new movie that's come out, The House with a Clock in Its Walls. So this movie is starring famous actor Jack Black, of course, as if you've seen the trailer. So basically what this movie is about is, it starts off with a 10-year-old boy named Lewis, and he is recently become an orphan, and he moves to Michigan to live with his uncle Jonathan, which is Jack Black. So, and he just comes off as a weird, crazy, just like that crazy uncle you always have. So, and he moves Lewis into his house, which is just beyond weird. There are clocks everywhere. It's like just insanity everywhere. And he introduces Lewis, and Lewis gets introduced to his uncle Jonathan's neighbor, Florence. So, Lewis, he can't sleep. There's just weird things happen in the house that he just can't explain. And he's just like at school, when he goes to school, he figures out, like, it's just not for him. Like, no one really likes him. He's just kind of like the new kid that no one is into. Like, no one cares about him. So, when he goes home, he learns that his uncle Jonathan is a warlock, and he can do magic, as well as Florence is a good witch. And that the house that they live in used to belong to another warlock named Isaac, and his wife, a witch named Serene, and they passed away last year. So, there's one rule in the house. One, that there's a locked door or a locked closet or cabinet, and whatever's in it, and that no matter what Lewis and no one else is allowed to go open it and see what's inside. That is the only rule. Like, the rest, Uncle Jonathan does not care about. And that Isaac, he hid a clock somewhere. There's some clock in the house, and that keeps just ticking everywhere you hear it tick, 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 like a clock. So then Lewis, he gets acquainted with like a popular boy from his school, and remember, he's only 10. So, this boy is just annoying him so much that Lewis, he just truly tries to stand up to him but fails. So then his Uncle Jonathan and Florence, they teach him how to be a warlock, or they teach Lewis how to be a warlock and do magic. And they say one thing, that even though that you can learn as many spells and as many things possible as you can, but you can only control your type of magic. Like, you can, that last 1% it's all up to you. That, like, the way Lewis could do magic would be different from his uncle or from anyone else, if you catch what I'm saying. So, so then Lewis, he shows off his new warlock skills in school, and just everyone's blown away. So Lewis then invites his new friend over to his house to show off his new warlock skills. And the new friend, he basically breaks the one rule in the house, and he opens up the closet that Uncle Jonathan said not to go into, and they find a spell book on how to raise the dead. So just before, as Uncle Jonathan is about to come in and see, they lock everything up and make it seem as it was before. So then the friend goes home, and still he's not convinced that Lewis is a warlock and can do magic. And so then, Lewis, getting annoyed, him and a friend, they go to the local cemetery, and they bring back to life, and they bring the book, and they use the spell book to bring back to life a person, and that person happens to be Isaac, the dead warlock. So then all just things begin to change. The clock just starts to ding, or it starts to tick way faster. So then as so then Uncle Jonathan and Florence, they tell Lewis the truth, like, about Isaac and the history of the house. That Uncle Jonathan, he pretty much got abandoned by Lewis's father. Like, he got kicked out, and that Isaac was he was an orphan. He never had any family, and that as time wore on, both eventually found each other, and they had a love for magic, and they just became friends, and they started basically becoming magicians. And then a war broke out, and Isaac went over into Germany to fight in the war, and he just went through horrible things, and we can assume, and I guess he got PTSD after the war, and he was just completely, like, just changed. He went from being happy before to, like, just being depressed and just angry all the time. And eventually he kicked Uncle Jonathan out of the house, fell in love with his witch wife, Serene, and then a year before Lewis moved in, Isaac he made some spell, and all that was left that actually killed him and his wife, and they assumed that he used that, and there was nothing left but a key made from human bones, and Uncle Jonathan and Florence assumed that was the bones of his wife, of Isaac's wife. And that clock, they have no idea what it will do. Like, that clock is evil, and they want to find it to shut it off completely. So then Lewis, he confesses to everyone that, yeah, he kind of brought Isaac back to the living, and that pretty much the entire world, and that just everything is going to fall apart. And Uncle Jonathan, he actually pretty much tells Lewis to get out, leave, because of just the danger that he brought to everyone. And then Florence just goes over and just pretty much makes Uncle Jonathan say, like, he can't raise a child, like, he is a coward, he is afraid. He makes Uncle Jonathan admit that he's afraid. He is so scared that Lewis is going to get killed that he does not want to parent Lewis. And this iconic line, like, that I'm sure is just every parent's thing, that being afraid for the child and being afraid that they'll kill themselves or that they may get killed, that's part of the job of parenting. At least that's just funny to me. So then Uncle Jonathan instructs Lewis to go over to their neighbor's house, which is she's a cranky old lady. She's just like that cranky old lady that everyone hates on the block. Like, just that's typical, like, you just don't want to be near this lady. So he instructs Lewis to go and stay there until they deal with the house and find the clock and shut it down. And just as Lewis is about to pack his bags and head over there, he sees, like, living Isaac in the old lady's house. So then he goes over to the lady and gets her out of her house. And it turns out, and when he gets him and the lady, they get into into the house, it turns out that the old lady is actually Isaac's wife, Serene, and that she didn't die. That she basically left and just basically shapeshifted into this old lady who they actually killed, and that the old lady's bones were the bones made for the key, and that Isaac truly did die, but his wife did not, and that secretly his wife has been in Lewis's dreams, been trying to tell him to free or to bring Isaac back to life. So now both Isaac and Turing are alive and well, and they plan to just completely use the clock to do to continue with their evil plan. So then Uncle Jonathan and Florence, they find Isaac, his wife, and Lewis, and basically Isaac tells everyone just what their plan is and what happened to him overseas during the war. So basically what happened is that Isaac, after seeing all the destruction and everything what happened to him that he witnessed, he basically just used any single spell to take it all away, just make the pain go away. And he basically, all the spells that he was using, conjured up a demon, and the demon basically made him and kind of partially possessed him to make him evil and just the way he is right now. And that basically the clock, what he plans to do with the clock is to basically make the clock turn time all the way back to the beginning of the earth, basically erasing all of human history, and making sure that nothing ever comes upon the earth, like no living person is on the earth until there's nothing left but him and his wife. And just because he feels that without people, wars or pain or anything or everything that he's experienced can't happen. So that's basically what the purpose of the clock is. So basically Lewis is in a cage, and Dream dropped down into spikes to be killed, and Florence and Uncle Jonathan are tied up, and Isaac takes the key from Uncle Jonathan, and just as he's about to kill Lewis, Florence, she activates her witch powers, which she said that she actually can't do magic because during the war she was injured physically. Her body healed itself, but mentally she just has never been able to be healed, and that has prevented her from being able to use magic until now. And that's because she got a new drive to use her magic to help Lewis and to save the world. And so basically Lewis, Florence, and Uncle Jonathan, they get kicked out of the house, they get locked out, and it's basically the three of them fighting everything that is conjured up around the house that Isaac has conjured up to prevent them from getting in. And unfortunately, they are unable to find the clock because Isaac has put a witch's hex over it to prevent anyone, no matter if they're magical or not magical, to find it. And Lewis comes up with the idea to basically use his own magic to find it and locate it, because he's not just an average person, he can do magic, and he's not a warlock or a witch. So, and basically he uses like one of those things where it's like you shake it up and a new, like a word or a phrase comes up. I don't know what the thing's called. Say it in the comments because I just don't know. I can't think of it off the top of my head. So, and it basically says that the clock is in the boiler room. So they go into the clock, and a creature attacks Florence, and she's fighting the creature, while Uncle Jonathan and Lewis head down to the clock, and they find Isaac and his wife waiting, and they activate the clock, and okay, sorry about that. I got interrupted. So where was I? Oh yeah. So then Isaac and his wife, they activate the clock. And they turn Uncle Jonathan into a baby, preventing him from actually doing anything. So it's basically up to Lewis to stop all of this. And so basically, Lewis, he uses his ball, or that's what I'm going to call it, the thing where, that I just talked about, that I can't think of the name of it. And it tells him, say goodbye, and he basically throws it into the gears of the clock. And that ends up preventing the clock from working. Like, it basically shuts down and stops temporarily because it's stuck between the gears. So then Isaac and his wife come down and try to get the thing out, and Lewis basically uses the energy from the clock that it's creating and just kind of combines it into one and blasts Isaac and his wife and kills them both, and eventually ends up saving the world. So yeah, that's basically the movie. All in all, it was a really good movie. It definitely got the positive feedback that it deserves. And you really should just watch this movie, especially in the time of the year that we're at now, which is October is tomorrow. First day of October is tomorrow. So yeah, definitely check this movie out. It is very good, and it's truly just a good movie. It's good. It's not really scary at all. It's kind of a comedy and just fantasy. And yeah, so that is what happened in the movie. That is my review. I give it a 10 out of 10 all the way. On the actors, just the story, everything, the effects, just anything and everything, 10 out of 10. So guys, that is it for this video. If you enjoyed this, give this a like, and share this video, and consider subscribing if you have not. And I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.